Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in history when a leader does not just sit on a throne, he sits on the hearts of his people. A leader does not just give commands, he commands his own soul. A leader does not just seek power, he seeks purpose. And today I want to introduce you to such a leader, a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet his greatest battle was not against an enemy, it was against himself. His name was Marcus Aurelius, the last of Rome's 5 great emperors. Now let me ask you, what makes a great leader? Is it power? Is it authority? Or is it something deeper, something eternal? Because the truth is, history remembers Marcus Aurelius not for the empire he ruled, but for the wisdom he left behind. Today, we will not just talk about his life, but we will extract the principles he lived by, principles that will elevate your mind, transform your thinking, and change the way you lead your own life. If you can grasp these principles, you will not just live successfully, you will live significantly. So if you are ready to step into the mind of one of the greatest thinkers and leaders of all time, stay with me, because by the end of this message, you will never see leadership the same way again. Body. Key lessons from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was not just a ruler, he was a student of life. While others sought wealth, he sought wisdom. He did not chase applause, he pursued truth. He wrote a book called Meditations, but let me tell you something. He was not writing for the world, he was writing to himself. Why? Because great leaders don't wait for others to hold them accountable. They hold themselves accountable. Let's break down his life into 3 powerful lessons. Aurelius understood something that many leaders today forget. You cannot lead others if you have not conquered yourself. He believed that emotions, temptations, and distractions were the real enemies, not the barbarians at the gates. You see, the greatest war is not fought on battlefields, it is fought in the mind. The question is, are you winning or losing? He had everything, wealth, status, and empire, but he knew that power without purpose is dangerous. He did not see himself as a ruler, but as a servant to his people. He lived with the belief that his position was temporary, but his impact could be eternal. The real question for you today is, are you chasing power, or are you living for purpose? Stoicism is the art of ruling your emotions instead of letting your emotions rule you. Marcus Aurelius believed that you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." My friends, the storms of life will come. People will betray you. Doors will close. But remember, your success is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by what happens in you. So, what does this mean for you today? You may not be an emperor, but you are the ruler of your own life. You have been given a kingdom to manage your mind, your purpose, your influence. The question is, how will you rule? If Marcus Aurelius were here today, he would remind you, do not waste your life chasing power. Chase wisdom. Do not fear struggle. Embrace it as your teacher. Do not let emotions control you. Be the master of your own soul. Because at the end of the day, true greatness is not about how much you have, it is about how much you leave behind. Now go and lead like an emperor. Leadership is not about position. It is about posture. It is not about titles. It is about truth. It is not about control. It is about character. And if there was ever a man who embodied leadership with integrity, it was Marcus Aurelius. He was not just an emperor, he was a philosopher, a man who understood that leading a nation meant first leading himself. He ruled Rome at the height of its power, but he did not see his position as a privilege, he saw it as a responsibility. And that is where true leadership begins, not with the desire to rule, but with the commitment to serve. The problem with many leaders today is that they desire the rewards of leadership without the weight of responsibility. They want influence without integrity. They want honor without humility. But Marcus Aurelius understood that power without virtue is a curse, not a blessing. He knew that a leader who lacks integrity is not leading. He is merely occupying a seat. And there is a difference between holding power and being worthy of it. The real test of leadership is not how well you command others, but how well you command yourself. And Marcus Aurelius was a man who believed that his first duty was to master himself before he could guide others. One of the most remarkable things about his leadership was that he did not allow external power to corrupt his internal compass. He had the ability to make laws, command armies, and shape the destiny of an empire. But he remained deeply committed to the principles of justice, discipline, and moral excellence. In his personal writings, which were never meant to be published, he constantly reminded himself to stay humble, to remain honest, and to never allow power to make him arrogant. That is the kind of self-awareness that true leaders possess. They do not let success change them. They let their values anchor them. They do not let praise blind them. They remain grounded in truth. Because leadership is not about how many people serve you. It is about how many people you serve. Marcus Aurelius faced immense challenges during his reign. Wars threatened the empire, political corruption was rampant, and even within his own circle, betrayal was common. But despite the pressures of ruling the world's greatest empire, he never compromised his values. He never allowed the chaos around him to disrupt the discipline within him. He believed that a leader's character is tested not in times of comfort, but in times of crisis. That is why leadership with integrity is so rare, because it requires consistency in the face of pressure. Many people can lead when things are easy, but it is when the storms come, when the weight of responsibility grows heavy, that true leaders emerge. One of the greatest marks of his leadership was his refusal to abuse his power. He could have lived in luxury, but he chose simplicity. He could have silenced his critics, but he chose wisdom over vengeance. He could have ruled with fear, but he chose to lead with justice. Why? Because he understood that leadership is not about feeding your ego. It is about fulfilling your purpose. And your purpose is always bigger than your position. The danger of leadership without integrity is that it turns into tyranny. The moment a leader prioritizes personal gain over public service, he ceases to be a leader. He becomes a dictator. And history has shown us that empires rise and fall not because of external enemies, but because of internal corruption. Marcus Aurelius knew this, and that is why he fought daily to remain a man of principle in a world filled with compromise. True leadership is not about demanding respect, it is about earning it. It is not about commanding others, it is about inspiring them. A leader with integrity does not manipulate people, he empowers them. He does not rule by force, he leads by example. That is why, centuries later, Marcus Aurelius is still remembered, not just as an emperor, but as a man who led with wisdom, ruled with justice, and lived with integrity. The greatest battle a leader will ever fight is not against armies or enemies. It is the battle within. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. He was an emperor, a ruler of millions, yet he knew that his greatest challenge was not the wars at the empire's borders, but the war in his own mind. Every day he faced doubt, fear, frustration, and temptation, but he did not let them control him. He believed that the man who conquers himself is greater than the man who conquers a city. Most people think leadership is about external power, about making laws and giving orders. But real leadership starts with self-discipline, with the ability to rule over your own thoughts and emotions. Marcus Aurelius trained his mind the way a warrior trains his body, through discipline, reflection, and wisdom. He understood that thoughts shape reality, that the way you think determines the way you lead. If you allow negative thoughts to control you, they will shape your actions. If you let fear dominate your mind, it will weaken your decisions. That is why he constantly reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The world will always throw challenges at you. People will test your patience. Circumstances will test your faith. Failure will test your resilience. But Marcus Aurelius believed that the mind is the gatekeeper of destiny. He trained himself to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. When Faced with betrayal, he did not react in anger. He responded with understanding. When faced with disappointment, he did not complain. He looked for the lesson. When faced with hardship, he did not ask, "Why me?" He asked, "What can I learn from this?" This is the mark of a true leader. Leadership is not about being free from struggle. It is about how you handle struggle. It is about how you master your emotions, how you control your thoughts, and how you choose your responses. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily reminders to himself, not because he was weak, but because he knew the mind needs constant training. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword, a leader must sharpen his mind. He understood that external battles are won or lost based on the battles we fight within. Too many people lose this battle. They allow worry to consume them. They allow fear to dictate their choices. They allow anger to control their actions. But Marcus Aurelius believed that the true power of a person is found in their ability to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly in the midst of chaos, and to choose wisdom over impulse. He trained himself to focus only on what he could control and to let go of what he could not. He understood that no one can take your peace unless you give them permission. Most people are slaves to their emotions, but leaders must be masters of their minds. Marcus Aurelius did not see leadership as a privilege. He saw it as a responsibility to be the best version of himself every day. That is why he wrote meditations, not for the world, but for himself, to remind himself of the battle within and to win it every day. His legacy is not just in the empire he ruled, but in the wisdom he left behind. And that wisdom teaches us one powerful truth. Before you can lead others, you must first master yourself. There is a difference between a ruler and a leader. A ruler seeks control. A leader seeks purpose. A ruler desires power. A leader desires impact. Marcus Aurelius understood this difference, and that is why history remembers him not just as a Roman emperor, but as a philosopher-king, a man who saw his position not as a right, but as a responsibility. While many rulers before him were consumed by ambition, greed, and the pursuit of personal glory, he sought something greater, the fulfillment of his purpose. Power is dangerous in the hands of those who do not understand their purpose. It corrupts, it blinds, and it destroys. We have seen it throughout history. Men who rise to great heights only to fall because they prioritized power over principle. Marcus Aurelius refused to be one of them. He knew that power is temporary, but purpose is eternal. He ruled not for his own gain, but for the good of his people. He believed that leadership was a duty, not a privilege. He did not ask, "What can I gain?" but rather, "How can I serve?" His commitment to purpose was tested throughout his reign. He faced invasions, political betrayal, plagues, and the weight of an empire on his shoulders. It would have been easy for him to become bitter, to seek revenge, or to abuse his authority. But instead, he remained focused on his higher calling. He wrote to himself daily, reminding himself not to be swayed by flattery or hatred, not to be attached to power, and not to allow the throne to change his character. He understood that a leader must serve something greater than himself, whether it be justice, wisdom, or the well-being of those he leads. This is what separates ordinary rulers from extraordinary leaders. A ruler seeks to expand his power, a leader seeks to expand his people. A ruler controls with fear, a leader inspires with vision. A ruler demands loyalty, a leader earns respect. Marcus Aurelius lived by the belief that his role was to leave the empire better than he found it, to ensure that his leadership was defined not by his reign, but by his impact. The greatest tragedy of leadership is when people achieve power without discovering their purpose. Power without purpose leads to destruction. It leads to leaders who oppress rather than uplift, who take rather than give, who serve themselves rather than those they were called to serve. Marcus Aurelius saw power as a tool, not a trophy. He understood that his authority meant nothing if he did not use it wisely. Many leaders today fail because they chase power instead of purpose. They want titles, wealth, and influence, but they lack the vision to use them effectively. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the true measure of a leader is not how much power they hold, but how well they use it. He teaches us that leadership is about leaving a legacy, not building an empire. And he reminds us that at the end of the day, power fades, but purpose lasts forever. Life is unpredictable. Challenges will come. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will shift. But the greatest test of a leader is not what happens around him. It is how he responds within. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply, and that is why he lived by the principles of Stoicism, a philosophy that taught him to master his emotions, remain calm in adversity, and focus only on what he could control. Most people live their lives reacting to the world. When things go well, they are happy. When things go wrong, they are angry, afraid, or frustrated. But Marcus Aurelius refused to be controlled by external events. He believed that true power comes from the ability to govern oneself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That was his secret. He did not allow circumstances to dictate his emotions. He dictated his emotions despite circumstances. During his reign, Marcus Aurelius faced immense trials. Rome was constantly at war. A devastating plague spread through the empire, and even those closest to him could not always be trusted. Yet he remained steady. He did not complain. He did not despair. He focused on what he could control, his own thoughts, actions, and character. This is the essence of Stoicism, understanding that suffering is inevitable, but how we respond to it is a choice. One of the key lessons of Stoicism is that most pain in life does not come from the events themselves, but from our thoughts about them. A betrayal is painful, but the suffering increases when we dwell on it. A failure stings, but it becomes unbearable when we allow it to define us. Stoicism teaches us to separate what happens from how we interpret it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, reminding himself that external events have no real power. Only our perception gives them meaning. He trained himself to view every obstacle as an opportunity. When facing difficulty, he did not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, he asked, "How can I use this to grow?" This mindset allowed him to remain unshaken even in the face of chaos. He knew that hardship refines character, that pain produces wisdom, and that suffering is not an enemy. It is a teacher. Many people allow their emotions to control them, but great leaders master their emotions. Marcus Aurelius believed that anger, fear, and frustration were not weaknesses, they were opportunities for discipline. Every time he felt tempted to react emotionally, he saw it as a chance to strengthen his self-control. He trained himself not to be swayed by praise or criticism, by success or failure. He remained centered, focused, and unwavering. This is why his leadership was so powerful. He did not need approval from others to feel secure. He did not allow setbacks to shake his confidence. He led with wisdom, not impulse. He lived with purpose, not emotion. And that is what made him great. His life is proof that true strength is not found in armies, wealth, or titles. It is found in the ability to control the mind, to discipline the emotions, and to remain steady no matter what storms may come. Greatness is a gift, but it is also a burden. Many desire success, but few are willing to carry the weight that comes with it. Marcus Aurelius understood this reality more than most. He was the ruler of the most powerful empire on earth, but he did not see his position as a privilege. He saw it as a responsibility. He knew that leadership is not about comfort. It is about sacrifice. It is not about being served. It is about serving others. It is not about seeking ease. It is about enduring hardship for a greater cause. Most people want power without the pressure. They want influence without the responsibility. They want the rewards of leadership without the struggles that come with it. But Marcus Aurelius knew that true greatness requires a price. Every day he woke up knowing that the fate of millions rested on his shoulders. He could not afford to be weak. He could not afford to be careless. His decisions determined the course of history, and he carried that weight with wisdom and discipline. The burden of greatness is that it demands more from you than from others. You must be stronger, wiser and more disciplined than those you lead. When others complain, you must endure. When others give up, you must press on. When others react with emotion, you must respond with wisdom. This is what Marcus Aurelius lived by. He did not allow himself to be consumed by pleasure or distracted by vanity. He remained focused on his mission, no matter how difficult it became. Throughout his reign, he faced betrayal, war, and even personal loss. He endured the pain of seeing trusted advisors turn against him. He suffered through a plague that wiped out thousands of his people. He fought battles not just against enemies on the battlefield, but against the doubts and burdens within his own mind. And yet, through it all, he remained steadfast. He did not seek revenge when he was wronged. He did not let grief break him. He understood that a leader cannot afford to be ruled by emotions. He must be ruled by purpose. The greatest leaders are not those who avoid hardship, but those who embrace it. They do not run from responsibility. They rise to meet it. Marcus Aurelius believed that suffering was not something to be feared. It was something to be used. Every trial, every difficulty, every moment of pain was an opportunity to grow stronger. He did not ask for an easy life. He asked for the strength to endure a difficult one. That is why he remained committed to his duty, even when the weight of leadership felt unbearable. Many people crave success, but few are willing to carry the burden that comes with it. The truth is, the higher you rise, the greater the pressure. The more influence you have, the more responsibility you bear. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us that true leaders do not seek comfort, they seek meaning. They do not run from the weight of greatness, they learn to carry it with honor. At the end of life, titles mean nothing. Wealth fades, power disappears. The only thing that remains is the impact you made, the lives you touched, and the wisdom you left behind. Marcus Aurelius understood this truth better than most. He ruled the most powerful empire in the world, yet he knew that one day his rule would end. His name might be forgotten, and his body would return to dust. But what he left behind, his thoughts, his principles, his example, would outlive him. That is the true measure of a leader. Not what they gain in their lifetime, but what they leave for generations to come. Too many people chase success without considering significance. They want to build an empire, but they do not think about what will remain after they are gone. They pursue wealth, but they do not consider how they will be remembered. Marcus Aurelius did not seek glory. He sought wisdom. He did not chase fame. He pursued truth. And because of this, his legacy is not just in the battles he fought or the empire he ruled, but in the words he wrote, the principles he lived by, and the wisdom that still speaks to us today. He could have spent his time accumulating riches, indulging in luxury, or demanding praise. Many rulers before him did exactly that. But instead, he spent his time reflecting on virtue, justice, discipline, and leadership. He wrote his private thoughts in a journal, never intending for the world to read them. Yet centuries later, his writings became meditations, one of the greatest works of philosophy ever recorded. That is the power of a true legacy. It is not in what you own, but in what you give. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that legacy is not built in moments of greatness, but in the daily decisions we make. Every action, every choice, every word contributes to how we will be remembered. Will we live selfishly or serve others? Will we chase power or pursue purpose? Will we leave behind wisdom or regret? These are the questions that define a person's true impact. Many people live as if they will never die. They chase temporary pleasures, fight for meaningless recognition, and ignore the deeper purpose of their existence. But Marcus Aurelius lived with the awareness that life is short and fragile. He constantly reminded himself that one day he would be gone, just like the rulers before him. And because of this, he made every day count. He led with wisdom. He lived with humility. He focused on what truly mattered. His life teaches us that success is temporary, but legacy is eternal. It is not about how much you acquire, but how much you contribute. It is not about how long you live, but how well you live. Marcus Aurelius left behind a legacy of wisdom, discipline, and virtue, not because he sought fame, but because he lived with purpose. And that is the greatest lesson of all. If you want to be remembered, do not seek greatness. Seek to live a life worth remembering. Marcus Aurelius was not just a ruler. He was a philosopher, a warrior of the mind, and a servant of purpose. His life was not defined by his throne, but by his thoughts, not by his power, but by his principles. He understood that leadership is not about dominance. It is about discipline. Success is not about what you gain. It is about what you leave behind. And true greatness is not found in external victories. It is found in the mastery of oneself. We have explored the depths of his wisdom, the battle within, the supremacy of purpose, the art of inner strength, the burden of greatness, and the power of legacy. His life was a testimony to the truth that before you can change the world, you must first change yourself. The world will test you, circumstances will challenge you, and leadership will demand everything from you. But if you embrace discipline, if you master your mind, if you seek purpose over power, then you will not only lead, you will leave a mark that time cannot erase. So I ask you today, what will be your legacy? Will you live a life ruled by emotion or by wisdom? Will you seek comfort or will you embrace responsibility? Will you chase power or will you fulfill your purpose? The choice is yours, but remember this: power fades, titles are forgotten, and wealth will pass away. But the impact of a disciplined mind, a heart of wisdom, and a life of purpose will echo through eternity. The lessons of Marcus Aurelius are not just history, they are a call to action. They are a challenge to rise higher, to think deeper, and to live wiser. So take this wisdom, apply it, live it. And when the final chapter of your life is written, may it be said that you led with honor, you lived with purpose, and you left behind a legacy that will inspire generations to come.